Alright, it's time to talk about one of the most influential icons in pop culture to date, Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, maybe him another time. No, it's time to talk about Harry Potter. Now, when it comes to sweeping fantasy worlds, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is one of the most detailed and immersive worlds put on screen. While the books do go even more in depth into the Wizarding World, I would say that the films do a pretty great job bringing it to life. Harry Potter has always been a part of my life. As a kid, my sister would throw on the movies whenever ABC Family had a marathon, and when I finally was old enough to read the books, I couldn't believe how wrapped up I got in the story and the general world of the film. In January of 2020, I got to go to the Warner Brothers studio in London to look at all the really awesome Harry Potter sets and props, and that was such a cool experience. I definitely maybe cried a few times. But what I want to dive into specifically today is one of my favorite Harry Potter movies, and that's Order of the Phoenix. More specifically, I want to talk about how the film depicts the destructive nature of isolation. I love the opening of this film because it thrusts us right into a personal moment for Harry. The very opening of this film is quiet. Unlike the previous film entries in the series, this film starts off darker, more subtle, and with no magic seen within the first couple of minutes. We see Harry sitting alone at a playground. The skies are darker and he watches a mother escort her child out of the playground. This opening scene really sets the thematic tone so beautifully, and it does it in a completely visual way. Instantly, we see the darker color palette telling us that this will be a much more mature and dark story than the previous films. We see Harry alone on the outskirts, watching others be together. This again is Harry's main inner conflict within the film. He feels increasingly isolated from his friends, his school, and most importantly, himself. When Harry goes back to school, he is instantly met with cold attitudes from friends that he once believed would always stick with him. They are questioning his validity if Voldemort actually returned. Dumbledore, the man he looks up to as a father figure, is all but ignored him throughout the majority of the film, and Hagrid is gone for the large portion of the school year. He is left almost completely alone. What this film does so beautifully is it really looks at how isolation can destroy a person's perception of themselves. As Harry pushes people away and looks further into the similarities between him and Voldemort, he begins to perceive himself as more like Voldemort than himself. This perception twists his mind and drives him away as to who he really is as a person. He begins to believe in the lies that Voldemort is feeding him, and he even starts to believe that he has actually lost it. I think this messaging is so impactful today because right now, when we are basically encouraged to be isolated from other people, it can be hard to get to the proper attention, love, and connection that we all really need. And when, like Harry, we start to believe that we are unworthy or unfit of that attention and love, we start to feel isolated, and our perception of ourselves is altered to one that is incapable of human connection. Continuing on with that, another thing that this film does really well is it offsets the moments of isolation and loneliness with moments of community and togetherness. Some of my favorite scenes from this film are from the DA meetings and the little montage of them sneaking around Umbridge. These moments have such a stark contrast to when Harry feels isolated because it is a very theme of the film, and it helps Harry resolve his internal conflict. The very thing that separates Harry from Voldemort is the connection he has with other people. One of my favorite scenes from the movie is when Luna and Harry are in the forest feeding Thestrals. Now, this scene isn't in the book, but I think it was such a great addition for the films. It's, again, a pretty quiet scene, and Luna basically verbally slaps Harry in the head, saying, "Hey, if I was Voldemort, I would want you to feel isolated. Maybe you should rely on help and the support of your friends a little bit more." And here is actually why the movie is one of my favorite Harry Potter films, and that's because it isn't just Harry in the end saving the day. It's actually a group of his friends from the DA who travel to the Ministry with him together. Once again, this is supporting the theme that togetherness is better than isolation. The contrast between isolated, quiet moments and big, bombastic moments of joy and community are so contrasted and perfect in this film. That's why the end of the film is so impactful. When Voldemort enters Harry's mind, Harry is able to fight him off. because he attaches on to all of those amazing moments of pure connection and love that he's had in his life. I really love that Umbridge folds into this theme of isolation as well, and that she, in a way, is the opposite of true friendship and love. Umbridge is never isolated. She always seems to be surrounded and wanting to be seen and respected by important people. Instead of trying to connect and understand others, she simply looks down on them and isolates herself in a bubble of pride, putting herself above everyone else. This is another type of isolation that I don't think is talked about as much, but is just as destructive. Overall, this film really is a great bridge that took the series in a darker and more mature direction. Don't get me wrong, I love the movies before this one too, but I thought this one would be a good starting place. I would really love to also go into the filmmaking techniques of Prisoner of Azkaban, because that movie is technically brilliant from the cinematography to the directing. But for now, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I haven't been able to keep my upload schedule, but we're right in the middle of filming our junior year thesis films, and it's consumed about 90% of my time. But I am so happy that I get to make these videos for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And what Harry Potter film or what film in general should I dive into next? And remember, adventure starts with you. Thanks, guys.